Welcome to the MSSC Flash LMS presentation, or LMS 2.0, you want to refer to it. This is Randall Saathoff, and the purpose of this presentation is to give you highlights and how to navigate within the new learning management system for MSSC. This is going to be quite a learning curve for a lot of you who've been actually using the old system for some time. It was for me. I used the old system for 7 years, and when I first saw this, it was quite overwhelming at first, but after getting used to it and actually working within the new LMS, I think you'll find that it is a very good tool to use. There's a lot of benefits that helps us, the instructors and administrators, and also it's a lot of improvements made for the student also. I'd like to go to my next slide. This next slide pertains to the date when they actually turn the switch to turn off the old LMS and we switch over to the new LMS, and that is going to be Monday, December 16th. Again, that's Monday, December 16th. That's when we flip the switch and the old LMS will be down, and all your data, or your information, or your classes that you have had set up into the old LMS will be all transferred over into the new LMS 2.0. So as an instructor or student, you should be able to use your current username and password to get into the system. So all that data should be transferred over, including your class titles. Your class numbers will all be put into what they call tabs. Or I'm sorry, not tabs, but actually tags. There will actually be a tag associated with certain classes pertaining to your training to whatever organization you're with. So again, Monday, December 16th is going to be the day that all this is going to be transferred over. Monday, December 16th. And this might be a good time too to think about in your current old system. Since all this data is going to be transferred over into the new, if this might be a good time to do a little house cleaning. If you have old courses that you no longer use, I suggest go in and archive them or delete those if you have that ability to get rid of them so they won't be transferred over into the new system. So, and that's the same way with students. If you have students in the system who are no longer around, no longer in this type of training, now's the time to get rid of those students. Either archive them students or delete them if you can. It's a good time to do some housekeeping before we do convert over things over to the new LMS 2.0. The next slide I want to show you is currently, you've seen this before many times, is actually the old LMS. The LMS, as you have probably seen this before, at least I have, you'll see when you go into the login page, you'll see these pink boxes up here, kind of give you a warning that all the stuff is not loaded on your computer that you need to run the e-learning content. And you can see that one at the top, the first one is the Author web player, which I know has given many of us a lot of headaches over time of trying to get this authorware installed on a computer. Well, I'd like to announce, thankfully, that program is no longer going to be used. Authorware is in our history books. We will no longer be using Authorware web player for this training. So thank goodness that is over with. But again, this is the old login page. I would like to show you now what the new login page looks like. And this is the new login page. Please note at the top in the address bar this is going to be the address you're going to be going to get into this page. That is lms.mssctraining.com. Let me repeat that. That's lms.mssctraining.com, and that's going to be the address you need to put into your address bar to get into this login page you're currently looking at right now. In this login page, you'll see in the left column here, you have under System Requirements. You want to make sure that all your that you have 3 green checks in this section. You want to make sure that you have, in this case, they're asking for Internet Explorer, which is the IE, Internet Explorer 7 or newer, needs to be on your computer. Or you need to have Firefox FF 3.6 or newer installed on your computer. This will not work, as I found, will not work with Google Chrome. Internet Explorer or Firefox is what you need to have on your computer. Also, under pop-ups, more than likely when you go in for the first time, you'll probably have a red X there. So you want to go through the process of allowing pop-ups from this website. You'll probably asked a question, always allow pop-ups from this site, and I would say yes to that. Always allow pop-ups from this site. And the final piece is you must have Flash Player. Flash Player 10.1.1 or newer has to be on your computer for the e-learning content to work. So if you have a red X by one of these items, view your requirements. And what you have here on this window is actually what they're listing here is the hardware at the top here. This is the hardware needed on your computer for the e-learning content to work. And just like before, under those bullets there, you can actually test the speed of your connection to the server. You can go right here and do a bandwidth test. That's just like it was before. Remember, you do have to have pretty decent line speed or for the e-learning content to work correctly. Also in this window here, this is telling me that I have Flash Player successfully installed on my computer. And this right now it's showing me I have actually Flash 11.9.9 installed on my computer. If you don't have this installed, simply click on Get Adobe Flash Player, click on that. It's a free download, and it downloads to your computer, and that's what you have to have for the e-learning content to work, the Flash. Let's close that. And now I'd like to show you, basically, I'm going to go log in as a fake student, and I'm going to show you what the students see with this e-learning content. So logged in as a fake student, and you can see the student's name in the upper left here, and the upper left of the window. And what the students have in their view is they have the Learning Center, and under that they have the e-learning courses, they have my progress report, they have messages, notifications, they also can go in and edit their information, they can log out here, also they can log out into the upper right hand corner also. And while I'm there, let's go ahead and click on the help. Don't forget that this help section is always here. That will help a student or you, the instructor or administrator, can navigate within this learning management system with this help documentation here. Don't forget that's there. If you get stuck, please look at the help, and it will kind of guide you through how to navigate within the learning management system. And what you're looking at here as an instructor, or I'm sorry, as a student, as a student, I'm looking here and it's giving me feedback. These are some of the recent courses I've actually been into and working within the e-learning content. In this case, it's telling me I've been working in the modular course under safety and also the green production. But if I click on libraries, that brings up the courses that's available to me. I'm going to go ahead for demonstration purposes, click on modular course. I'm going to pick the MSSC M1, that's the modular course for safety. Click that, and here's what we have. We have the title of the e-learning content, in this case production teams. And when you see these kind of numbers pop up as it's popping up here, basically you're getting the number that Amatrol uses to identify this e-learning content. This is strictly an Amatrol number. As you can see, I have taken the PreQuiz, and since I have taken the PreQuiz, I can launch the unit, and I have taken the PostQuiz. Just like before, you have to take the PreQuiz before you can launch the unit. You have to launch a unit before you can do the PostQuiz. That has not changed. I would like to show you kind of what the feedback that a student will receive if they click on their PreQuiz score. Like before, it gives them feedback, a number of questions that they had, a number of correct responses, a number of incorrect responses. It gives their grade, the date it was taken, and the time to complete. This is kind of new, time to complete that quiz. It also gives feedback of objectives to review to improve their score. In this case, it's giving me an example of looking at objective 8 and objective 10 to go back and review. I can close out of that. Before I launch unit, I want to kind of give you an idea of what is shown with the PostQuiz, the information that students receive after they complete the PostQuiz. This is like it was before. Again, your same information we saw earlier with the PreQuiz. The PostQuiz gives the students the questions and their correct answer. And let's go down to the one that has been missed. In this case, this is the question that was missed. It gives the question and the answer that you gave, which was incorrect. It tells you to go back and review objective 15 to find the correct answer to the question. This is a good tool for students to go back and do reviews. I found a lot of my students would go back in and do the PostQuizzes for their preparation to go take the MSSC assessments. A lot of them would go back and retake the PostQuizzes just for review purposes. And again, getting this kind of feedback is very valuable to students in their learning process. The student also has an option to retake the quiz by simply clicking retake, and they can take the PostQuiz as many times as they so choose. Remember, the PreQuiz is a one-time deal. The PostQuiz can be taken many times. Let's go ahead and launch a unit. I'll show you the e-learning content is a little sharper, a lot sharper graphics, a lot clearer and better looking pictures, and it's just more nicely, more modern looking for the student within this e-learning content. Let's take a look at it. And this is a slide, this is something fairly new. They actually have a tutorial built in to the e-learning, especially this is kind of nice for a person going in for the first time. They can actually launch the tutorial, which actually kind of It helps them how to navigate within the e-learning content. And that's something, an option they have to do. But let's bypass that and go right into segment 1. Put your cursor over, left click, and that brings up all the objectives and skills and the self-reviews within that segment 1. So let's go ahead and click on objective 1.
Describe 2 types of customers and explain the importance of each.
And here's how the slides are kind of set up. You have the table of contents in the lower left corner. This is the kind of a shortcut. There's going to be times when you or students will go in and say, well, I've already seen that content. I need to get back to another section. Simply click on the table of contents, and you can jump to any of the segments or any of the objectives or skills within those segments. So this is your shortcut to actually move around within the e-learning content, your table of contents.
Describe 2 types of customers and explain the importance of each.
Also, along with the icon for table of contents, you have an icon at the bottom here with a glossary. So if there's a term that a student is kind of stuck on, they can click on the glossary and look up that term and find out what the meaning of that term is, or definition of that term. Also, like before, the student has an option of turning the sound on or off. Remember, it does run a little faster when you turn the sound off. Basically, the text is being read to the individual. You have an option to repeat with the repeat icon at the bottom. Let's move to the next slide. That's all going to take place in the lower right-hand corner. When you go to next slides.
The customer is a person or organization that makes use of the services or products of another person or organization. There are 2 types of customers. They are external customers and internal customers.
I hope you can see that with the new LMS, that the graphics, the pictures are a lot sharper, clearer looking than what they were before. Whenever you come to a slide such as this, you're going to have within it information to the student, telling them there's more interaction they need to do within this e-learning content. And it's going to give them actually directions what they should be doing with the interaction with these slides, for example. So let's go ahead and click on external customer just for example.
An external customer is a person or organization that receives services or products in exchange for compensation. The external customer supports the company financially by buying whatever the company is selling. Examples of external customers are vendors who sell the company's components, dealers and representatives that sell the company's finished products, as well as the end user of the product. Improving external customer satisfaction is the main objective of customer service departments.
And the student has an option to repeat that slide if they want to. And or to get out and back into the main slide is simply click on the check, and that returns them back to the main slide. So let's move off this. No need to go into what internal customer is, but let's move out. And this gives you warnings that you have not explored all the options in this interaction. So the student has an option to go return back into or continue out of that.
Describe 3 types of customer requirements.
And like before, it automatically takes you into the next objective. In this case, it's objective 2. But let's get out of that and continue on with this an overview. Let's close this window, and then we're right back to what students views as a student. The next thing I'd like to talk about for the student is they actually have an option to do they can see a My Progress report. And what it brings up is the courses they're actually enrolled in, And in this case, since I have been doing the safety, it gives me feedback of what my pre-quiz scores are and the post-quiz scores. But what's kind of nice about this, if they go in and click to the right, and when it says show objectives and show skills, reload report, it gives them feedback of the objectives. The ones that are in green are telling the students that these objectives have been mastered by them, and the ones in red shows that they need further review on those objectives. Kind of a nice little tool, a nice visual for a student to look at and see the certain objectives that they may want to go back and do certain reviews on. The next thing I'd like to talk about the student has available to them is under messages or notifications. This is a one-way communication. This is communication coming from Amatrol or coming from MSSC. And this would be things like software updates, changes to the system, or the system may be down for maintenance. These is what these sections are about, messages and notifications. It's a two-way, it is not a two-way communication. It's a one-way communication coming from either MSSC or Amatrol. The student could go in and actually edit their information. So the student could go in and actually change their password. They have to type in their new password, confirm, and hit save. When they do that, their password has been changed. The student also has an option to view activation codes. This is something kind of new for us. They were always in the background before whenever you ordered training through MSSC, but you really never saw too many activation codes. But what's going to happen now, instead of saying you have 10 seats for, say, the MSSC modular or M1 course, that's the modular course for safety, it's going to give you, for example, if you had ordered 10 seats, it would show 10 activation codes. And you will assign each student an activation code that will get that student into that safety training. So the student has the option to see the activation codes that's been assigned to them. Also, the student can go in and, for example, Mal Kettle here has just finished the safety training, and now you have ordered the quality training and you have activation codes to pass out to students for the quality training. You can, as an instructor, can actually give a student an activation code, and that person is actually a 9-digit activation code. They could type that activation code into this box here and hit add. Then they are actually enrolled into the quality training, for example. So that's kind of a nice tool to use that a student has available to them. So they actually can enroll themselves into training themselves, where you can, as an instructor, also do that, but the student has an option to do that also if they have an activation code to use. And of course, don't forget that the students can log out in the lower left here or in the upper right. And please don't forget, the students also have the help information here, which will help them to navigate. Okay. Again, that's what the student sees. This is what the student sees with this e-learning training. I kind of like to show you, kind of make a flashback here to I'm sure all of you remember this. This is the old LMS. This is what's available to us as instructors or administrators. These are kind of the 4 categories we dealt with a lot. We always dealt with course editor, where we would go in and when we had to actually develop a course. Remember when we chose Course Editor, we'd have to go in and put the course department in, department name, the name of the course. We'd have to put some sort of a number in there pertaining to your organization, and who is going to be the primary teacher of that course. All that has changed, that we no longer have Course Editor. Course Editor now becomes what we call Managed Activation Codes, and let me show you what that looks like with the new LMS. Let me log in as an instructor. And now what you're looking at right now is actually the instructor view of the LMS. Same content as what the students have under the Learning Center, e-learning courses, my progress report, messages, and notifications. But they also have under these administration section is actually under, they have reporting. They can manage users, manage activation codes, a demo setup, demo reporting, expiring activation codes. They also can edit their information also. So with that, I had just talked about the Course Editor no longer exists, but we now have, taking the place of Course Editor is actually Managed Activation Codes. I kind of like to demonstrate what that is. In this section here, Managed Activation Codes, simply click that. And if you hit, basically what you have here under activation codes, you actually have 6 search engines to search for specific activation codes. There's a way you can search under users, you can search under tags, you also can search under activation code tags, and I will talk about those here shortly. Also, you can check under, do a search on activation codes itself. You can type in a 9-digit code and do a search. You can type under course or content. All these are 6 individual search engines you can use to do searches within the searching for particular activation codes. If you hit show all, right now you're only seeing one activation code, and this is the activation code we use for the instructor training. In the real world, when you hit show all at your organization, in time you'll see a long list of activation codes. And for example here, if on that scenario I talked about, if you had ordered 10 seats for the M1 safety training, you would be showing 10 activation codes here. And it would probably be titled MSSC M1 with the name. It's kind of, all these activation codes come from when you come from MSSC when you order training. And since I'm showing only one activation codes, I want to show you how important some of this information is when you're talking about activation codes and the use of tags. So basically what you're doing here is, if I click the box here showing my activation code, you'll notice that I have these 3 icons lit up, tag selected, print selected, or I can actually do a clear selected. So really what you're doing here when you're talking about tagging, basically you're giving that information we just talked about. You're giving it a name, or you could give it a number, or whatever, however you need to identify that course. So let's go ahead and look under tag. So let's go ahead and tag the selected. And what you have here is, if you'll click under the tag window, and in this case it shows all the tags that's been created. If you don't like what you have in the list here, you can always create a tag. And say, you can make it a custom tag. Let's go spring safety. Course 101. Whatever works for you. And basically what you're doing is giving that activation code a name. And when you type it in, hit tag, and now you see this is actually went into my tag. You also can go in and also edit those tags. You can see to the far right, it says I can edit the tag. Little pencil there. So right now I've actually got 2 tags associated with that. So I can get rid of the web training. Yeah. And now I'll just have the one activation code I just created. Also with this, you have an option to change the name of the training itself. Under this section here, the little pencil, click on that. You can change the name of this tag. And again, most of them is going to come in showing MSSC M1 for safety. So you can just call it safety, whatever you want to call it. Also, you can there's a magnifying glass here. You click on that. And this will show you, in this case here, this activation I'm showing you is actually for the integrated course, showing all 4 categories. But if this was just a safety course, it would just show these icons, this information right here that I'm showing. And again, those numbers here to the left are strictly for the numbers that Amatrol uses. But there's titles. It talks about this under user. If you have a student and you want to give them this activation code, you have an option to email that student this activation code. Put the email in, hit mail code, and this activation code is going to be sent to a student or to another instructor if necessary. What's important here, if you're looking at activation codes, is actually doing look at your start date, and especially look into expiration date. How long is this actually? How long is this going to be good for? What type is it? Is it an open lease? In this case, this activation code is an open lease. And look at the status. Is it active or not? So again, the activation codes, manage activation codes becomes course editor. And this is the importance of keeping track of your activation codes by giving them names. It will help you in the long run. I would kind of like to show you what the instructor has available to them under the MSSC Learning Center before I continue on with the rest of this demonstration under Manage Users and Reporting. Let's look under e-learning courses. Under libraries. And right now, keep in mind this text here, we're showing organization courses. Right now we're showing organization courses. These are the courses that's in your organization. Let's look under modular course. Let's look under the M1 for safety. And as an instructor, if you're looking under this in the instructor view, you have 2 options. You only 2 columns. You can launch a unit, or you can do the quiz. Either one. So when you launch a unit, basically you're seeing the same thing, the same content that your students see. If you hit View Quiz, this is something new for us, the instructors. As an instructor, you get to see the quiz questions and the correct answer. This is something new. Kind of a nice feature for us instructors to actually go in and see the quiz questions and the correct answers. I know before we've had issues with maybe going through some of this content that we may have a disagreement with, or we may find there's a typo within the question. So now as instructor, we have an option to report an error. So to the right of that, when you click on report error, you are now sending an email to the amateur text, and that within that email is a copy of this question, and you need to write in documentation why you think it is incorrect and why you think it should be corrected. And the amateur text will look at that, and they will get back with you, and they will fix it if there's any changes needs to be made, or they'll give you a reason why it is worded that way or answered that way. So this is something new for us when you can report an error. So keep in mind that now you can do that as an instructor. Before, there was a lot of channels to go through to get that done. That no longer is a problem now. You can report it directly to the text at Amatrol. Again, we just looked at the organization courses. I'd like for you to know this is what was kind of threw me off a little bit. When you go over to the right under this text here, it says show assigned courses. These are the courses that has been assigned to students. And again, if you're going in as a student, it's going to show you your recent courses. Under libraries again, you'll click on that. Just look under modular, under the M1 for safety. And basically you see the same three columns that the students see. And it's the same scenario that that you have as the students, where you have to do a pre-quiz first before you can launch a unit. You have to actually launch the unit before you can actually do the post-quiz. Much like it was done before, just like the students have. So basically you're seeing you're actually viewing and experiencing the same thing your students experience with this section of showing assigned courses. So don't forget, you can switch back and forth between those two scenarios there, showing assigned courses, showing organization courses. Under showing organization courses, basically you only have two columns, as I just showed you. Okay. Under progress report, that is identical to what the students see. So this is doing a progress report on you. If you have actually been into the content yourself, going through the quizzes, it's going to give you a report on you, what you have done as an instructor or administrator. Also, the same thing here. This is a one-way communication between, this is coming from Amatrol or MSSC under messages and notifications. Okay. I want to continue on under the administration section of this. I just got through talking about managing activation codes and how it has replaced course editor. To flash back one more time to the old LMS, for us, the instructors, after going through and setting up a course, we always go in and we set up students, and we would have to go through the process of enrolling those students in courses. Well, right now, those no longer exist with the new LMS. And student editor and enroll students in courses is now replaced with. You also have a section here under pending users. You can click that. So if you have created students and they have not logged in yet, that will give you a list of the students who you have created, but they have not logged in under pending users. So you can do a search. Let's go ahead and do a search for mall kettle. And really all you have to do is type in a letter. If you type in a letter and hit search, that's going to bring up every name that's in the system at your organization that has the letter M within the first or last name. And there's Mall Kettle. When you bring up students like this, you have an option. You can edit that user. You can also manage the privileges of that user. Let's go ahead and look at edit user first. Right now, under this edit user, you can see there's a fake student. I gave that student a tag to identify a group of people that they're fake students. So I can go in as a instructor or administrator. I can actually untag a person, and I can go in to add a tag, bring up the list of all the different tags that's been developed. And if I didn't like any of those, I can create a new tag. And for example, you could do a tag, say safety training spring semester, class 101. Whatever works for you and your organization to identify that student. Where is that student located within the system? What classes are they going to be in? Whatever works for you, please give that student a tag. It will help you with your searches. But let's go ahead and put the tag back on my fake student. There's the tag user, and now she has the tag. I can archive the user, and if say a person that comes in class and no longer they drop out, you can archive that person. Also, this is what happened for you is passwords. People come into class, well, I forgot my password. So you simply hit in, bring up the student, hit reset password. And what here in the text here says this will be a temporary password. The user will be prompted to reset it when they log in next. So simply type in, I suggest use the default password that we've used for a number of years now. This is probably what I'm going to use, and that's going to be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Type that in, hit save, and now that when that student logs in, they'll have to use that default or use the temporary password, and as soon as they do that, they're going to go back in and change the password, hopefully something they can remember. Also under this, and when you're looking at students, you're actually looking at the activation codes that has been assigned to that student. And you, the instructor or administrator, can actually assign activation codes. Say that student is getting ready to go into the safety training. You have 10 activation codes to use, so you can use one of those activation codes, and actually you can do a copy and paste type thing from the pages. Or you can just type in the 9-digit number yourself and hit the activation code, hit the add activation code icon, and that person actually is enrolled into the class. Okay, so again, this is one way of talking about doing, looking for and doing searches. You can search under tags. Let's go ahead and do a search on tags. Let's clear the this out first. And let's do a search for tags. And I've used some tags for the instructor training. One being, I can actually just type in the first letter. And here's some of the tags I've created. Let's go ahead and look at the, this is the training we did a couple weeks ago for the instructor training. I can select that tag, and it pops it at the top, and hit search, and that's going to bring up all the students that I put that tag under. These only had 2 students in that class, and this is a good way for me to go back and all the different instructor trainings that I have been doing. I'm putting tags on these students so I can go back into that class that we did on that month and that year and those days, and actually bring up the students and see how they're doing in the class. Also with this, I have an option to go in along with the edit user. I can actually manage privileges. So let's go in and look at manage privileges. And this is really something I feel it's reserved for the instructors or administrators. I don't really see a need for a student to have any of these privileges. Here's a list of 6 privileges that's available. The first one being access organizational courses, assign demos, create users. Don't think a student needs that. Edit privileges, manage activation codes, and view reporting. Now, if you want to set this up for a fellow instructor or administrator, please, all you got to do is check these boxes. Or you can just check 1 or 2, whatever you privilege you want to give. Hit save, and that person will have these privileges set to them. And you'll see by these students that these keys will pop up, and you'll see the key. If you see the key by their name, it says it tells them that they have 6 privileges that always can be edited, and so forth. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is actually in the old LMS. That's the final tab we had here is under student monitoring. That now is being replaced with reporting. The new LMS will say reporting instead of student monitoring. So under reporting, you have 5 search engines that you can do. So there's ways of different, you can search by the activation codes, you can search by user tags, or you can just search for a user, or you can search by the course or by the content. Many ways to search here, all kinds of tools to use. Let's search under user. Let's try to find Mall Kettle again. Hit search. And again, it's going to bring up all the names that has MA in it. So there's Mall Kettle. If I hit select under reporting, and that's going to give me feedback of what she is doing within this training. It gives me the courses they're in, the course title, the content name, the date they started, and also here's some good feedback. The last date they accessed e-learning. It's going to give me their pre-quiz scores and their post-quiz scores, and to the right of that, how many times they have taken the post-quiz. Also, you have an option as instructor. You can see the red X by the quiz score. You have an option, if you put your cursor over, you can reset the grade of the post-quiz score. The reason I would see that being used is, say a student goes in, they're in the middle of a post-quiz, and maybe the power went out, or maybe they had to leave, and they got out of it, and basically they got a low score because they did not complete the post-quiz. So you, instructor, can go in and reset that grade if you want to. That's an option. So if you want to do a search, and narrow this down to just say yeah, it's not going to, because I did search for the kennel. So again, you can do a search under clear that. You can do a search under user tags. And there's the tag I used a while ago. I can select that, hit search, and that brings up the students, the 2 students I had in the instructor training a couple weeks ago, what activity they're doing. And if I just want to do a search on safety, what they're doing on the safety courses, I can do a search there, and that brings up all the courses that's going on in safety. If I just wanted to look at as far as they're doing as far as PPE, I can arrow that search down if I want to. And this is just bringing up the 2 students and what they've been doing as far as the personal protective equipment sections. Also, you can show, let's clear that, under show rows with no activity. And that brings up the empty rows where there's no activity going on. Okay, so that's reporting. A lot of tools you can do with reporting. And also with this, you can export this information into an Excel document. You can export it into a PDF file. And if you needed to email this report link to an individual, you can. Or you can just send them the report link, the file that takes them to this view right here we're looking at. That's a lot of options there for the instructor. I'd like to kind of wrap things up here talking about the demo setup. You have an option as an instructor to set up demos. So if you have friends, associates you're working with, all you have to do is type in their first and last name, their email address. If you have more than one, you can add more to that. If you click on demo course, basically what you're doing is sending them an email of how they can log in and actually do demos on these 4 categories here. So they actually are going to see the e-learning content in these 4 categories. So it gives them a great visual of what students are going to see with this type of training. You also can do a demo reporting. This gives you feedback of the demos you have created and see whether or not they're still valid. Again, these demos that I'm talking about are only good for 21 days. 21 days and they expire. And here's a very important piece to look at is expiring activation codes. This gives you feedback of the activation codes that are about to expire. And this is going to be the far right column, the end date on the activation codes. Also, you, the instructor, can go in and edit your information, just like the student. So if you want to, you can change your password. You can look at activation codes that may be assigned to you, or if you need be, you can actually assign yourself a training class using an activation code. That's an option. Okay. And finally, you have, and don't forget, you can log out here or in the upper right-hand corner. And also, don't forget, you have the help section here to help you with this within navigating the learning management system with a table of contents where you can move around within this information. It's a good tool to use. I've used it a number of times already. Okay, so with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to the folks at MSSC. If there's any questions or questions we can answer, I'd be glad to. I didn't hear the person from MSSC at the beginning, so I hope I can hear the person at the end here. So with that, MSSC, you can, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Randall. Now, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for your presentation. We will now proceed with some questions before the end of this session. And again, for all of our participants, if you need more assistance after the webinar, please contact our CPT coordinator, Catherine Feeney, at cfeeney@msscusa.org or 703-739-9000, extension 2222. Oh, thank you, Randall. Okay. First question. Can I go to the LMS page now?
Yes, you can. Simply type in lms.mssctraining.com. And
Perfect.
that's a good idea to do that, is to make sure that you have all those green checks there. Make sure your system, your computers is up to, has all those plug-in or the software loaded.
Okay. Will the presentation be available to us after the training? That would be for us. Yes, it's going to be available. I'm recording this session. I will edit it, and then Catherine will follow up with you on Monday. So anyone who wants the link to the session, please send an email to Catherine, and she will be happy to assist you, okay? Randall, the other question is for you. Other than the new pictures, is the learning the same?
Yes, the learning is the same. That has not been hardly changed at all, but it has been updated with new graphics and new pictures. But the content is basically the same.
Okay, perfect. Another one. How do I get the activation codes?
I lost you again.
Sorry. Can you hear me again?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. How do I get the activation codes?
The activation codes come when you order classes through MSSC. As I said with the scenario I said throughout this presentation, say you ordered 10 seats through MSSC, and you're buying 10 seats for the modular course and safety. So basically you're going to get 10 activation codes generated from MSSC, and that will be a 9-digit code, and it will probably say MSSC M1. That's going to be for safety. So you'll have 10 activation codes if you have 10 students.
Okay, another one, Randall. Does the demo email give all information on how to access the demo website and do the demo?
The demo email, I guess I'm not sure of what that is. I think that it takes you into, if I'm not mistaken, that came from Amatrol, and I think that takes you to a YouTube video. And I would suggest you can take a look at it, but their YouTube video is a little bit different type of LMS, and I shouldn't say that. It's done okay, but I think looking at this webinar over again will give you a better understanding of how to navigate within the Learning Management System 2.0.
Okay, perfect. Another one. I have students scheduled to test on December 20th. Will this change over impact the testing website?
It does not. This has nothing to do with the testing website. All that is unchanged. The testing is unchanged. This is strictly the learning management system, not connected at all with the testing.
Okay, another one. Have you updated the safety? Yeah, the safety for the MSDS to the modern version with the new laws?
That would be a good question to ask Amatrol. I am not sure that has been done yet, but that's something I will maybe call Amatrol about this afternoon and talk to him about that. Yes, that has been brought up to date. That has been brought to my attention in the past that those need to be updated, and I will find out if Amatrol has updated those or not. If it has not, I'm sure they will do it very soon.
Okay.
Good question.
Another one. I am preparing to teach this beginning in January. Should I be doing the instructor training or the student training in my preparation?
Repeat the question one more time, please.
Sorry. I am preparing to teach this beginning in January. Should I be doing the instructor training or the student training in my preparation?
In your preparation, you should be doing, I guess I'm assuming the question, you're currently an instructor. If you're not currently an instructor through MSSC, you need to go through the instructor training either through the 3-hour online course or the 3-day instructor training course that we hold once a month. So I'm assuming the question is that you're currently an instructor, and I would, if you're currently an instructor and you're preparing yourself to get ready to take the assessments, you're preparing yourself to teach. If you're not already certified as a CPT, I would suggest go through the student section of the e-learning content, because that's going to have you do pre-quizzes. You're going to launch a unit, and you're actually going to do post-quizzes. If you're logged in, if you're looking under the instructor portion of the e-learning, basically you can launch the content, but when you launch the quiz, you really don't take the quiz. It automatically gives you the correct answers to it.
Okay, great. Paul Smith, I think he is clarifying that the email that he sent after you assigned a demo. So I think that's connected to the previous one of the previous questions that he asked. Randall, another one. How important is the use of tags?
The tags are very, very important to use. Use tags on your activation codes and use tags on your students. That's a way of grouping large or groups together. For example, when I'm doing instructor training, we do a number of those, and I'm going to give my students that are in certain classes tags. That way I can go back and actually find those students who were in that training. So, and that's going to be the same way with your activation codes. You're going to be dealing with a lot of activation codes, which is something new for us, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of activation codes. So it's important that you group those activation codes by using tags, because that's going to help you find those tags and what they're used for.
Okay, another one. I have my activation codes. Now how do I set up my course?
That's a good question. Let me just go back in and do that. So you go, the question is, I have my activation codes. How do I set up a course? You simply go in under Manage Activation Codes. I would hit Show All and go in and actually do the check by the activation code you want to set up. And there's where you go in and do the tag. Basically, the tag is going to give that activation code a name. For example, it could be called the Spring Safety Class 101 at, example, Ivy Tech campus, Ivy Tech Muncie campus, whatever. Okay.
Okay, another one. How do I enroll my students if I don't have a course set up?
That's another very good question. You go under Manage Users, simply click on New Administrator or New Student, whatever yours may say. In this case, mine shows a New Administrator. Click on that, and all you have to do is type in their email address, confirm their email, and type in their first and last name, hit continue, and an email is being sent to that student. As soon as that student logs in, they are enrolled into the system.
Great. And what if my student does not have an email address to receive their activation code?
Okay, that's a very good question, which is something I need to really talk about. The one I just showed is actually the easiest way to enroll student. There are actually two other ways to enroll students. This has to be done back at the login page. Back at the login page. Let's go ahead and log out. And now we're back at the login page. And this is something I suggest you have your students do. The first way I just showed you is what you do as an instructor. The next piece here is what you need to have the students do if you don't do it yourself. Under New User, under the login page, click on New User. And this is something the student can fill out. They can put their email address in. They need to confirm their email address, their password, confirm their password, their first and last name, zip code, and the activation code that you're going to provide them. Remember, there's a 9-digit activation code, and you'll have one. If you're going to put that student in safety, you're going to give that student that code. They're going to type it in, and they hit register, and they are in the system. Now, this will happen to you sometimes that if a student does not have an email address, all they have to do is simply click the text to the right here. It says, I do not have an email address. They simply click that. This is the third way to enroll a student. All they have to do is type in the activation code. Then when they hit submit, that takes them into the system where they have to create their username and a password. That is the best way to do it. And again, this is something I suggest have the students do.
Okay, great. Two more. Do we still need to use authorware, and what are the new system requirements?
Okay. Authorware is history. It's in the history books. We'll no longer need authorware, and that's really a great news. System requirements. Really, only software you need is Flash. Make sure you have the Flash player installed on your computer, and that's all you need.
Wonderful. And one more. Who do we contact if we need assistance?
Good question, and that would be Catherine Feeney. And Catherine is she's CPT operations coordinator at MSSC, and her phone number is area code 703-739-9000, and that's extension 2222. And please contact her if you have any questions whatsoever pertaining to the new learning management system. And I think, I hope everything will go smoothly on December 16th when we flip the switch. And again, so all your data is going to be transferred over into the new LMS, and I think you'll enjoy this new LMS 2.0.
Okay, I think we have one person in line, but he is over the phone. Let me unmute him. Maybe he has a question, okay?
Okay.
Tom, can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All I wanted was Catherine's email address again, please.
Of course. Is C. Feeney, her last name, C. Feeney at MSSCUSA.org.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Well, I think, Randall, we're ready for today's session. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Again, this session was recorded, so I will make sure to give Catherine the link. So if you want to receive it, just send her an email, and she will be happy to assist you, okay? Randall, thank you very much. I'll see you this afternoon, and thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.